Welcome, welcome, welcome to a special edition of DC on the Wire. Now, this is something a little different, really a whole lot different. And what I'm going to do is give you a brief tour of downtown Washington, D.C. from the aspect of me actually doing my job. And I'm going to go right on into it. I'm going to animate it like I'm actually driving the vehicle, a little something, as far as dealing with the passages. Welcome aboard, everybody. My name is MJ, and I'll be your tour guide for this segment of the tour. Hope everybody had a fantastic day thus far. Thank you for choosing Old Town Trolley. Now, first of all, MJ stands for Michael Jordan of the Trolley, so you are in good hands. This is the no hassle trolley when you ride with MJ. MJ is not going to hassle anybody about anything. Yet, company policies require me to relate the following information to you, and that is that there's absolutely no standing while traveling on the vehicle. There's no smoking or consumption of alcoholic beverages while traveling on the trolley. Also, ladies and gentlemen, if you decide that you're going to watch Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, listen to your favorite music artists, play a video game on your telephone, you must use a headphone device. It is okay if you talk while you're on the trolley, but please be mindful of the volume of your voice to respect your fellow guests that are attempting to listen and enjoy the narration. Once we get to our stop, you get off the trolley, you get back on the trolley, you cannot take another guest seat and another guest cannot take your seat. That is the company's policies. Okay, let's go on into it. Straight ahead of us, we have Pennsylvania Avenue. That is the official presidential inaugural parade route. Before we go into the historical part of the tour, over to the right, we got Fogo de Chao. That's a Brazilian steakhouse where you get a steak for $75 with no potato. Just across the light to the right is the old post office pavilion. Opened its doors in 1899. That is now Trump International Hotel. The Trump organization leased this building for the next 60 years. They leased this building on account that this building is not for sale. This building is a part of the National Registry of Historical Places. So when the Trump organization leased the building, they had to make some agreements to some stipulations. And one, they cannot deface the clock tower in any form or fashion. The clock tower was the highest point on Pennsylvania Avenue, superseding the building ordinance, on account that the building ordinance was incorporated 11 years before the clock tower was constructed here on Pennsylvania Avenue. Right next to Trump's International Hotel, that little area there is the presidential ballroom. Right next to the ballroom, we have the headquarters of the Internal Revenue Services, the IRS. Just across the light to the left, we have the J. Edgar Hoover's FBI headquarters here in Washington, D.C. This building went under construction in 1965. It was completed 10 years later in 1975, dedicated on September the 30th, 1975 by 38th President Gerald Ford. Over to the right, Robert F. Kennedy, Department of Justice, the DOJ. Opened its doors in 1935. This is the location and the operation of the United States Attorney General's office. Just across the light to the left, where those flags are flying, we have the United States Navy Memorial and Museum. That is also the location of the Archives Metro Rail, the yellow line and the green line. Over to the right is the Archives of the United States. Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, one of 5 copies of the Magna Carta is on display there, a copy of the Louisiana Purchase, and several other documents which help form the foundation of the United States. If you'd like to see those documents, you must enter the building on the Constitution Avenue side. Here on Pennsylvania Avenue, there is an entry. That entry is to the Research Center, where you can do some research on your family lineage and heritage, absolutely free. Now, just across from us, behind me, across from some of you, is a gentleman. He has a book in his lap. His book is closed. He symbolizes the past. And just ahead of us, we have this woman. She has a book in her lap. Her book is open, and she symbolizes the future. Over to the left, we have a tribute to General Whitfield Scott Hancock. He was a general during the Civil War on the side of the Union. He's known as one of the heroes of the Battle of Gettysburg. Just across the light to the left, we have a small obelisk-like structure dedicated to the Grand Army of the Republic. That pinkish building to the left is the National Council of Negro Women Foundation, founder Mary McLeod Bethune. The organization was able to purchase that particular building by a generous gift by Miss Oprah Winfrey. Over to the right, the Federal Trade Commission. This is the last building on the right side of the street going back to the Department of Commerce that makes up Federal Triangle here in Washington, D.C. Now, out in front, we have a statue. That statue symbolizes man restraining runaway trade. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you one of the great mysteries about this statue. Believe it or not, I actually posed for that statue in my heydays. That's before I became a vegan. I lost a little beef. Over to the left, we have the Capitol Grill. If you decide to have a meal there, you may see one of our congresspersons have a meal there as well, especially on the weekend. As we go across the light here to the right, National Gallery of Arts, West Building architect and designer John Russell Hope. He's also the architect and the designer of the Thomas Jefferson Memorial down on the Tidal Basin. Over to the left, this building under construction, that is the former location of the museum. The museum was a museum based on the news. They sold that building to the Johns Hopkins Medical Center for $378 million. Over to the right, the Andrew Mellon Fountain, also known as the Zodiac Fountain. If you look at the base of it, you'll see the Zodiac signs on it. Andrew Mellon was a former Secretary of the Treasury. Just across over to the left, we have the Canadian Embassy. This is the only embassy in Washington, D.C. that's between the United States Capitol and the White House. The Canadian Embassy was formerly located on Massachusetts Avenue. A section of Massachusetts Avenue is known as Embassy Road here in Washington, D.C. Over to the right, we have the National Gallery of Arts, East Building architect and designer I.M. Hayes. What's on display there is modern and contemporary art. If you look up on the landing, there's a blue rooster up there. Now, what that rooster is doing up there, I do not know. Over to the left, we have Judiciary Square, or a section of Judiciary Square. And in front of Judiciary Square is a tribute to General George Meade. General George Meade was a general during the Civil War, famously known for his defeat of Robert E. Lee in the Battle of Gettysburg. The Battle of Gettysburg is said to have been the decisive battle of the Civil War. Some sources report that it was the deadliest battle of that entire war. Over to the left, just across the street on the corner, that is the United States Department of Labor, Frances Perkins Department of Labor. Miss Perkins was the very first woman selected to a presidential cabinet by 32nd President Franklin D. Roosevelt. She held the position for 12 years. She was a very busy woman. One of her first goals and agendas was to extinguish the exploitation of child labor. She's also responsible for having a 40-hour work week incorporated into the work schedule. She also played a major role in having the overtime law put on records. She also played an essential part in having the Social Security law put on records as well. Just ahead of us, the United States Capitol. And just about 33 weeks ago, the entire Capitol was surrounded by barbed wire fences with a heavy military presence. And that was a result of the activities that took place on the grounds of the Capitol on January the 6th, 2021. On top of the Capitol, we have a figure. That figure is known as Lady Freedom. That's the tallest statue in Washington, D.C. by law. No statue in Washington, D.C. can be taller than Freedom. Lady Freedom stands 19 feet 6 inches, strategically being positioned to face the east to accommodate the saying that the sun should never set on the face of freedom. Over to the right, we have the Capitol's reflecting pool, not to be mistaken with the reflecting pool that is in front of the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. Just ahead of us, the Peace Monument. The Peace Monument is dedicated to those individuals serving in the United States Navy during the Civil War. And like all monuments and memorials in Washington, D.C., the Peace Monument has symbolism about it. And what it is symbolizing is America crying on the shoulders of history. As we make our way through this corridor to the left, we're going to have the west front of the Capitol. The west front of the Capitol is the official presidential inaugural front of the Capitol, and it has been ever since 1981. Prior to 1981, the east front of the Capitol was the official presidential inaugural front of the Capitol. In 1981, 40th President Ronald Reagan decided he wanted to be sworn in on the west front. And ever since 1981, all presidents have been sworn in on the west front of the United States Capitol. Over to the right, Ulysses Grant Memorial, 18th President of the United States, highly decorated general during the Civil War. Just ahead of us is 20th President James A. Garfield. James Garfield, unfortunately, was the second of 4 presidents to be assassinated in the United States history. James Garfield was assassinated 10 blocks away from the White House at 6th and Pennsylvania Avenue at the B&P Railroad Station. B&P stands for Baltimore Potomac. James Garfield was assassinated in the year of 1881 at the age of 50. Abraham Lincoln, 16th president, was the first president to be assassinated. 25th President William McKinley was the 3rd president to be assassinated, and 35th President John Fitzgerald Kennedy was the 4th president to be assassinated in the United States history. Once again, to the right, the Capitol's reflecting pool. Again, not to be mistaken with the reflecting pool that's in front of the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. Most of us are aware that the reflecting pool in front of the Abraham Lincoln Memorial is where Forrest Gump made his debut at. Over to the left, we have the United States Botanic Garden. Conservatory houses thousands of plants, trees, orchids, shrubs, flowers, exotic as well as extraordinary, from all over the world. It says a tropical 72 degrees all year round in the Botanic Garden. Annually, exhibits come here. The most popular exhibit by far is a flower that's known as the corpse flower. When the corpse flower is here, the line is wrapped around the block like 2 times. Now, that flower is identified as such on account that it actually smells like a dead body. So needless to say that old MJ has never smelled that flower and don't intend on smelling it in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, this part of the tour has come to a conclusion. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any comments, any recommendations, I would greatly appreciate it. And most likely sometime in the near future, I'll give you another section of the tour. Thank you.